Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Hello, future people, and welcome to Great Uncle John's weekly video log. This is week 22, June the 3rd, 2018. It has been a glorious week weather-wise. It's been sunny, but with a cooling breeze, making it just about ideal as far as I'm concerned. We got our garden in this weekend in 48 hours of frenzied work and expense. I rented a tiller from Home Depot on Friday and mowed the weeds off and hand pulled up the vines that were growing, and I added about 15 10-kilo bags of compost mix and tilled her up. The garden's only about 12 feet by 14 feet, so it wasn't all that much work. We get decent sun. It's in our backyard, but a couple of large trees on National Capital Commission property block some of the afternoon sun, so I'm going to give them a call and see if they'll get them removed, at least the branches. We had a traveling vet in on Friday to take a look at Ripley. He's been acting weird, especially at night, and seems to be in pain and restless. And Google says a Shar-Pei's average age is 13, and he just turned 13, so we thought, maybe this was it. So the vet is an end-of-life specialist, and she ran a number of tests for range of motion and pain, and asked about his eating and drinking and bowel movements and exercise, and then more or less proclaimed him to be quite healthy, and with only very mild arthritis and somewhat overweight. My son says we have hypochondria by proxy syndrome, but anyway, we're glad that he's healthy, and we may have some more time with him. Better check my messages after this. Also on Friday, our legacy dog Tim was groomed. He looks so much better, not being all hairy. He's the dog that belonged to my mother before she passed a couple of years ago, and we were lucky enough to inherit the yappy Pomeranian. So let's see, outside of my happy bubble, the Ontario election is wrapping up. The vote is in 4 days, and the Liberals are pretty much admitting defeat. They are asking supporters to vote Liberal to keep or to help stave off a majority either Conservative or NDP government. The NDP and PCs are about neck and neck. Let me check. Yeah, it's back and forth between the NDP and PCs, with the Liberals crashing and burning, and they might not even get official party status this time around. So the way the votes are distributed, however, means it looks like a PC, at least a minority, a majority would suck for Ontario. My best case scenario would be an NDP Liberal coalition with Horwath as premier. I guess we're going to see by next week. In Canada, Trudeau has purchased the Trans Mountain Pipeline deal from Kinder Morgan, and this has been a divisive issue within Canada, with a lot of opposition from both First Nations people and environmentalists. And future people will know if this was a good financial investment or not. You will understand also probably how it contributed to messing up our climate. But here in the present day, some people are looking at this as nationalizing our resource away from Kinder Morgan. Canadians are buying the project, not subsidizing Kinder Morgan. Sure, oil is sustainable, but in the unsustainable, I should say, isn't sustainable. But in the relative short term, it will make money and create jobs, and I believe the First Nations will do quite well, or the project simply won't go forward. So I think they will be able to come on side, and spills can be managed. And if the environmental apocalypse is upon us anyway, we might as well drink the last beer in the 2-4. It's not an either-or situation either when it comes to investing, in, say, clean water in the north or pipelines. We can invest in both pipelines and clean water. In fact, the first might end up paying for the second. So Trudeau may have just sacrificed his job to secure the next generation. Has he, future people? In Trump-Ganistan, let's see, the meeting with Kim and Trump looks like it's a go. Trump is hungry for this, and I don't think he will let anything derail it. I hope some good comes of it. Trump slapped tariffs on everyone, and all of us reluctantly slapped tariffs back on the U.S., so it looks like there's a trade war going on. Although the Republican Party has ignored or downplayed all of the horrendous things Trump has said and done because their base seems to like his shit, and they got their tax cut. But this trade thing might wake them up. This might be the issue that makes them turn on him. And at the end of the day, nothing else really matters because the Congress and Senate need to impeach this guy. And there needs to be sweeping Democratic advances in the midterms in Congress, and the Republican Senate needs to want to get rid of him. So if they don't, nothing's going to happen. You future people are laughing because you know how it ends, but we are still in the middle of this movie. In related news, there was the release of a memo written in January from Trump's team to Mueller outlining their reasoning that no laws were broken because Trump, like the Sun King, is the state and above the law. L'état, c'est moi. His lawyers are saying he did, in fact, dictate the letter about the Trump Tower meeting with Don Jr. and Jared and so forth on Air Force One after a year of denials, and I think they are a couple of steps ahead of the public regarding the investigation, and Mueller, of course, is a couple of steps ahead of them. So when Trump said last year that Obama bugged Trump Towers, it seemed absurd, but then it turns out the FBI were surveilling certain people in the Trump camp, so Trump obviously knew something, and he was trying to put his own spin on it before the public learned. So he knows that people have testified, and there is a mountain of evidence, and he is trying to spin it and come clean on some things. He wants to avoid an obstruction charge, I think, at all costs, and he's pardoning people all over the place and sending a message that he will pardon anyone who needs one. It's an interesting feature of American presidential power, the pardon. It's very regal. Trump, of course, will abuse it. And will there be years of Supreme Court wrangling over presidential powers, or will Trump be shown the door like Nixon was by his own senators? You know, future people, but this is part of what makes America great, the robustness of your institutions to stand up to an attack like this. And I am wrong about most predictions I make, but I can almost guarantee that you, future American people, are stronger for having withstood this virus of a president. Well, I can't think of much else to say. I still haven't heard from YouTube about my monetization, perhaps by next week. So have a great one. We'll see you soon, and we'll probably have lots to talk about. Take care.